Hello, and welcome to this episode of Beyond the Test Strasz Talks. I'm Straz's Vice President of Business Development, Dr. Rory McCorkle, and I'm really excited for our topic today. We're going to be doing a preview of the upcoming I.C.E. Exchange, the credentialing event of the fall, and I'm really excited to be seeing everyone out in Phoenix in just over a month, but I'm joined by a familiar and a new face. I'd like to welcome to the podcast Denise from I.C.E., as well as Joel Oliva, who is this year's program committee chair and works for NCCO, the Crane Operators Organization. Welcome to you both.
Thanks, Rory.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So, Joel, folks got to hear a bit of Denise's career journey last year, and we'll revisit that briefly here in a minute. But would love to hear from you. Just, how did you end up in this wonderful world of credentialing? How did you find yourself here?
Yeah, it is a wonderful world. Thanks for having me here today, Rory. Really excited for today's conversation. So my journey, I think I might be somewhat of a rare bird in that my full, post-college career has been in credentialing. My start was a good old-fashioned high school and college summer job working data entry. That was a previous a test service provider company. I didn't really know at the time even what I was doing. But one of their clients was CCO certification or NCCCO. And so after college, I was looking for something new, get to a bigger city. And the owner of that company, a mentor of mine, introduced me to someone you both remember, probably Graham Brent, former CEO of CCO. And, they hired me on, didn't really have much for me to do at first. But, the company was growing very, very quickly. I got to play pretty much every role at the company. And 18 years later, here I am, still with CCO. And it's been an awesome ride so far. And I look forward to the rest of it.
Well, thanks, Joel. And I know we share that in common, having worked in the industry for our entirety of our careers. And I know it's been a great ride for us both. So, Denise, of course, folks got to hear a little bit about your story last year, but your story is ever changing. So do share.
That's great. Yes, as I talked about last time, I got into association management right after college. I drove up to DC with everything I owned in my car. I got a temp job at an association in Alexandria, Virginia. And there I was. I know a lot of people like to say that they fell into association management, which is true. But I like to say that this field chose me. It's just a perfect fit for my interests. I like to describe it as running a small business, but on a mission. And that mission orientation is also what attracted me to credentialing. I had served on the commission for the Certified Association Executive, the CAE, with ASAE. And that introduced me to the NCCA accreditation process, and I was hooked. So when the I.C.E. Executive Director position opened up, I immediately applied, and I've been here for 14 years. It's truly the members and the mission orientation, the focus on a competent workforce that has really kept me engaged and interested for all these years. I just love it.
Well, and we're certainly appreciative of you, Denise, having seen you shepherd the organization through every number of changes, from rebranding to the growth and creation of the education suite, the growth of the conference. There's a lot to point to, but thank you for all of it.
Thank you.
And most especially here today, we are really excited about all of us gathering in Phoenix at the I.C.E. Exchange in just under a month, actually. So as usual, Joel, your committee, as I've taken a look at the program, you guys have done a great job. What highlights do you see in the educational agenda that folks should pay attention to as they plan their conference?
Yeah, I mean, just another super exciting year of education. That's obviously one of the focal points of the event. And so we were so excited to put it together. And in many ways, our job is easy. It's a good problem to have. So we had so many submissions this year. I think it was a record number, and they're, honestly, all really good. And so, we got to pick just the A pluses of the A's. It was a tough job, but a lot of fun to do it. Just for those that maybe new to I.C.E., Our sessions are broken down into the concurrent sessions, which is your pretty traditional 60 to 75-minute type session. We also have our lightning learning sessions, our shorter kind of bite-sized 15-minute sessions. We have the audience interactive sessions, which are kind of a different feel. One of my favorite groups, actually, which I want to highlight, is the networking inspired sessions. A couple ones we brought back from last year. My favorite name session is net walking. It's actually one where you kind of get up and out and get moving a little bit, which is kind of and so those are great. Those are certainly ones I would highlight for sure. Just to remind everyone of the tracks, we've got 7 tracks. All of our sessions are broken down into 7. We've got what I call the big three. The big three in that they kind of contain the majority of our sessions, which is our business of credentialing track, our credentialing innovations track, and also our test development and psychometrics track. And those 3, yet again, do represent a large percentage of our sessions, and have always done very, very well. But we also have a bit more specialized, but for those that are interested, are beyond traditional credentials, data management, privacy, test security, and then one of my personal favorites, marketing communication. And this year we've added a term to it, and program growth, and that was very intentional by the committee. We're seeing a lot of interest from the community about not just social media. All of that stuff is great. That's a major part of those programs. But then converting that into, okay, what does this mean for the business? And we really had some really great sessions that targeted that this year. And finally, I don't want to forget our dear friend Standards and Accreditation, near and dear to many in that space. In terms of highlights, there's an obvious one. We're all expecting it. AI. AI remains the dominant force of probably every conference that anybody attends these days, and certainly the credentialing business. But what I really like about 2025 is we're beyond theory. We're beyond, oh, this is a cool idea. It's application. We were really, really focused as a committee on selecting the sessions that were targeting application of AI, real world examples, because we really want people to take stuff away. I think at this point, for the most part, people understand what it is, and it's not going away. I think we've all accepted that. So now it's like, okay, how can businesses, and we are businesses, of course, find ways of implementing the technology, whether that's item writing sessions or even business application sessions. There's some really, really good stuff on the AI side. Speaker wise, I love having been part of this committee for 4 years now. I've gotten to see a lot of speakers who have phenomenal credentials, and the name alone, it probably will bring people to the session. But this year, we actually really put an emphasis on new speakers. We really wanted to bring in some new blood too, right? People who maybe haven't been around as long. We invited some people to maybe bring in someone else. And so that's been kind of fun as well. There's an opportunity at I.C.E. not just to hear from the experts, but also help elevate people up. And we wanted to take that opportunity as well. The last thing I'll mention, and this is one that's really near and dear to my heart, another area of emphasis, and you'll see this both in the business of credentialing and also in the marketing section, is what I'll call customer experience sessions. We are seeing this major shift as all of our technologies are catching up, and customers are getting more used to sort of self-servicing and just understanding their processes. We have some really great sessions, really honing in on what the customer experience or candidate experience would be, not just in the test, but just their entire, call it their certification journey, right? What does it look like before, during, after recertification, and really making sure that we as organizations are focusing on that from a retention standpoint, and also just an expectation standpoint. That's what at my company, we call it pizza delivery. When you order pizza, you get to see every step of the process all along the way. And that's become more and more of an expectation of all consumers, including those that are consuming certifications and credentials.
I was going to say, Joel, my kids would be sure to know exactly what you're talking about on that process any evening that I place such an order. So no, I hear you completely. Denise, anything that you'd like to add in terms of highlights as you've seen the conference evolve through these multiple years?
Yes, great. Joel did such a great job explaining our content, how they're selected, the variety, the tracks. All of that is super important. And, he emphasized that this is content that is curated by our members. So it's truly, past a level of inspection to say these topics are incredibly important. But let me talk generally about sort of the importance of in-person events. In fact, there was a study out put out by Smith Buckland recently on the value of events that stated that 80% of the respondents of the survey, which are other association professionals, view in-person events as extremely valuable. And 70% of the respondents said that they value or trust the information gained at an in-person event more valuable, more trustworthy than any other source of information that they have. So there's a super high trust factor in learning from our colleagues, which I think is borne out in our conference design. I believe that another great aspect of our conference is that we celebrate the community, such as the awards program. We have some incredible awardees at this year's conference that we will highlight. The Ignite sessions, which is one of my favorites because that's where people share their own career story. And Rory's going to be one of them this year. I can't wait to see that. As well as just all the great networking and innovation. I love learning from our sustaining and affiliate members who are in the innovation hall because they are truly thought leaders as well. And so they can tell us what's coming on the horizon. So I believe that our conference is designed with both education and that networking aspect in mind so that we can really fully engage in the couple of days that we're together.
No, I love that, Denise, and yeah, looking forward to the Ignite sessions for sure. Hopefully, the host goes easier on me than I went on some of the speakers when I hosted 2 years ago. But all that said, we shall see. Anyone who wants to tune in to a small Rory roast, go to Phoenix. Well, on a different note, last year you all continued a trend that I think had begun in 2023, where Shasta, the keynote speaker from last year, was quite a regular feature around the conference, not only giving the keynote, but participating in that luncheon around the annual meeting, and had a great focus on workplace culture, engagement, how to really develop those workplace relationships that can stay and stick. Now, this year's keynote, Sarah Ross has a focus on emotional intelligence and resilience. Certainly something that we all need in these rapidly changing times. So, Joel, what was the motivation behind the committee selection here, and really how the message is, as you see it, so key to the credentialing audience?
Absolutely, yeah. And Shasta, I just want to say she did such a fantastic job. We got phenomenal feedback last year, and really seemed to strike the right chord for our group. We loved the science-backed part of her practice. A lot of her work was done in research, and I don't need to tell Rory, we care deeply about that in our world, and so that really resonated well. But not just the work part. It was both sort of a professional and personal touch that I think she provided. There was an authenticity and relatability that really worked, and that seemed to play really well. So that was actually kind of our criteria. If we said sort of holistically what we wanted to include, a new topic certainly, but that vibe, if you will. And so I'm glad to report that Sarah Ross, our speaker this year, will also be consistent throughout the event. She will be joining us, of course, for the keynote as well as for the luncheon. We really wanted that connection and that sort of longitudinal relationship over the course of the conference. So she will be joining us for that as well, and we think that fit will be really good just from a consistency of the event perspective. In terms of the topic, yeah, we obviously I think building off of Shasta's work last year and workplace and sort of friendship and that piece of things, we kind of pivoted a little bit more this year into, like you said, resilience and emotional intelligence, but really tied to, I guess, what I would call sort of like leadership in challenging times, or I shouldn't even say challenging, but sort of realistic, right? The realities that we all face as individuals. And so given the environment that we're all in, whether that's, the geopolitical environment or the even just professional environment, there's so many changes going on, really being realistic and honest and authentic about what leadership means and how to do it effectively was really important. There's so many pressures we have from so many different directions. One of the things that I think is really unique and great about our industry is I think a lot of times is like a lot of us work for companies that are, I call it sort of small but mighty, right? Not large teams, right? Relatively scrappy for the most part, right? Our budgets aren't massive, at least most of us. But we have this massive impact. Many of our organizations have a national footprint, some international even. And we're operating, with relatively limited resources, relatively small team sizes, but have to make a big impact. And so we thought Sarah was a really, really good speaker for our audience, given those areas, and really think that her topics on leadership and leadership with that sort of reality check piece of it was going to be a great fit for the conference. So we're really looking forward to having Sarah join us next month.
Well, appreciate it, and looking forward to hearing her address as well. Um, Denise, on the other hand, we've had continued growth since COVID of the conference. I know every time I go, it seems like half of the audience is my old home week buddies, and then I have half the conference to meet and get acquainted with, which is
Right.
tremendous. I know that this year, in the environment as a whole, of course, has been more difficult for some conferences due to some of the reduced travel from outside the U.S. and all the changing environment that has an impact on folks' budget. So, love to hear from you. How's the audience looking, and any audience attributes that you're really excited about as you look at the crowd coming to Phoenix right now. And I'll also just say there's still plenty of time to register. Please do so to join us out in Phoenix. And sorry, but continue there, Denise.
That's great. Thank you for that. Look, I can say that our Innovation Hall, our trade show, is going to be booming. We only have a few booths left because there's been such interest in our community, in the role of credentialing that it's playing in the marketplace at large. So that's a really strong signal that things are continuing to go well in our profession. You're right that over time since COVID, we have rebounded in a very healthy way over the years. And, yes, you're right. There are some economic uncertainties in the area, but we still believe that we're going to have a strong attendance. Registration right now is tracking just slightly behind last year's, which again, last year's was a record event. And we know that there are some travel restrictions or reluctance. Some of our Canadian friends may not be able to attend, but we're working with them to try to help alleviate any of their travel concerns. But I believe what drives people to attend our conference year after year is the generosity of the community in sharing knowledge, sharing journeys, lessons learned, sharing ideas and innovation. That's really the power of the conference. And I believe that will be true again this year. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for another strong turnout. And of what you asked about attributes of our attendees, we always have, out of the, say, 900 or so attendees, we have 200 to 300 who are there for the first time. And it's really important that we give them a welcoming and open environment and show them, everything we've got, because they will be future attendees as well.
No, and I always appreciate that at the conference because, as we've seen, more and more folks go off to retirement and new people taking their place. It's been a great venue to get to meet those and individuals and continue to hear about everything that's going on within organizations in the space, especially as new folks come in and new ideas pop up. Um, Speaking of new ideas, we always have pre-conference sessions before the exchange, and of course, this year is no exception. But I wanted to shine a particular spotlight on the full day offerings that are being provided, particularly around the future of credentialing, which is much in alignment with a podcast that I recently did about foresight and future strategic planning, as well as a credentialing 101, perhaps for some of those new people as a full day. So can you share a little bit more about the pre-conference offerings this year and what created some of the focus on those particular topics?
For sure. Yeah, thank you. The Future of Credentialing Summit is a full day pre-con workshop. And this is a sort of a continuation of our first foresight journey that we started back in 2023 when we released the Future of Credentialing report and all the tools that came with it, a PowerPoint, a facilitator's guide, lots of opportunity for discussion. And so we're just continuing that conversation because the content in that paper was intended to be a 5 to 10 year look out at the horizon, Some of them have aged quickly, like some of the AI technology and a few other topics. But for the most part, we think there's still some great life in this conversation around the future of credentialing. So, with the help of an advisory panel, all leaders in the industry, we've put together a full day to talk about what that future of credentialing might look like, particularly focused on an external lens. So we are so good at building what we do, building a better product, making sure it has good quality and rigor. All of that is terrific. But we also need to pay attention to what's happening externally to us in the marketplace or in other environments. So we are bringing those voices together to hear about what credentialing means to them, what concerns they have around the future of credentialing. And I will admit, this is a little bit of a shake it up moment. So we are going to have some challenging conversations. We are inviting people who may have different perspectives about credentialing and what it means into the future. One panel discussion will have some HR reps from the local Phoenix area talking about what credentialing means for their hiring processes and decisions. We'll hear from a professor and an author about her view of the limitations around licensure. We'll hear from some technology companies that are some of the fastest growing entities related to credentialing, especially alternative forms of credentialing. So we'll hear what they see in the future. So it's a full day of high level strategic dialogue. We've got a facilitator that's going to thread it all together. And then after that, we're going to see, okay, so what does that mean for our community? And how do we continue having this conversation, this dialogue, and building resources for folks to use as they contemplate what that future looks like. We're even producing a future of credentialing newspaper, which will pretend like it's 2030, and we'll see what kind of topics we're able to raise there. You mentioned the Credentialing 101 session, which is also a full day conference led by Bobby Vernon and Caitlin Foley. And I think it's going to be a fabulous session as well. It's going to focus on non-traditional credentials like assessment-based certificate programs, micro-credentialing, stackable credentialing. So I think that there's a really interesting twist to that session as well. Looking forward to that as well.
No, I'm really excited to see and hear about what comes out of those sessions, and certainly having played I should say, having been frontline on seeing the results of what came out in 2023. I'm really excited to see this effort continue and help all of our organizations keep up with all the external forces to bear there. Certainly excited about all of those pre-conference offerings, and I want to take a look at that newspaper. Well, Joel, the role of I.C.E. program chair, is certainly a great honor, but also a challenging role to take on. And I know we shared some time on the program committee, but it's definitely quite a bit of work. So, would love to hear about your experience this year and what some highlights have been as you look back at this volunteer experience.
Oh, sure. I mean, you could summarize it with one word, which is fun. I mean, it's just fun. It's work, no doubt about it. It's a lot of work, but my goodness, I feel like I've gotten so much more out of it than I've put in. It's my first time volunteering with I.C.E. And I think it was it's been such a fun experience all the way through. I do want to just a big shout out, Denise, to your team. Katie, Scott, and Grace Calloway do a phenomenal job. They do a good job of letting us do our job. We get to do the fun stuff, right? We're there to be creative, to collaborate, to ideate. They get to do the spreadsheets and the meeting scheduling, all that stuff, right? Which is equally as important, in some ways, maybe more important. But it really lets us as members, as volunteers, really just get to have fun. And so that part of it has been just really amazing. And then just, I guess this is probably not just for the program committee, but and just more in general with I.C.E. volunteering. It's just something that I think everybody should do. I mean, I really mean it. I'm not just saying that because I did it, but as a first time volunteer with I.C.E. And I volunteer with other groups, and other groups do it well too. But I.C.E. in particular, I just think they really let us as the members really focus on what we want to do, and really offer the most value from a creativity collaboration perspective. And then just the connections you get to make. I mean, honestly,
Mhm.
that's a huge part of it. I've been in this industry a long time, and I've gone to I.C.E, on and off probably since 2009 through 2018 or so. And yes, got a chance to meet folks. I've known Rory a long time, and sure, it's great. I mean, just attending I.C.E alone is a phenomenal experience. But when you start volunteering, my goodness, it just opens, like, it's like another door. It's like the private door to the cool part of the club. You get to just experience that on such a deeper level. You really get to know people and learn a lot. I mean, we've all get to
Mhm.
learn from each other. Different organizations, different problems, but there's this really interesting sort of connectivity we all have.
Yeah.
That's been a lot of fun. So yeah, I just I guess, if I have any message other than come to the I.C.E conference in Phoenix, it's volunteer, and volunteer with I.C.E. I cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah.
Joel, if there was ever the best way to invite folks to step behind the velvet rope and join the volunteer room, I think you've just done it.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, as we begin to close, just one final opportunity to roll out the carpet here. What are both of you looking forward to the most? Reflecting on everything that we've talked about here, and then of course, if folks haven't registered yet, why should they make it a priority to go? And Denise, we'll start with you and then go to Joel.
Sure.
Yeah. Look, I always say it's the hugs and the conversations that I look forward to the most at our conference. That's what drives people to the exchange, in addition to the great content. And I love what Joel said about volunteering. Truly, our volunteers are what make this conference what it is, and such a special experience. But I love seeing the new friendships and the bonds that are being created. I love seeing old people re-engage, old friends, old friends re-engaging at the conference, sitting down for coffee or a cocktail to exchange ideas or challenges. I love seeing the cohorts of the previous leadership development programs. They get reunited and they go out to dinner together. I love
Yeah.
hearing from our attendees about what they're learning. I was at ASAE in August. And their conference, of course, is a place for me to learn about association management. But I have to say that there was a palpable comfort in the conversations that I was having with other colleagues as we talked about sort of the uncertainty of our times and just comparing notes, feeling reassured, getting new ideas, getting reinvigorated and energized was exactly what I needed, right? And I think that's also true for our community. There is something truly special about that human connection and sharing ideas and complaints sometimes, right? Sharing what's happening in our world. But I think that's truly special about our credentialing community.
Joel.
Yeah, well said, Denise. I agree with everything you said. It's, your comments earlier today about in-person events. I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
truly a special thing, and those connections are super important. I would say, I guess my pitch would be, if you've never been before, you got to try it. I.C.E does a fantastic job of supporting the first timer community. As Denise said, it's about a third, a little under a third of people every year are new. So you won't be alone as a newbie, and we want you to feel at home. There's a pre webinar we do specifically for first timers prior to the event, just so you kind of know the lay of the land before you get there. And then once you arrive, we welcome you to a first timer event specifically designed for first timers. A really good opportunity to kind of meet colleagues. You'll have a badge or a ribbon on your badge, excuse me, that identifies you as a first timer. And I'm sure everyone's been to an event before. I just want to emphasize the I.C.E community is so open. Like, don't be afraid to talk to somebody. Speakers, attendees, vendors, everyone. I mean, it's all like it's all good. We're all a family in that way, and you'll be amazed how quickly you'll find connections. Whether it's a work related problem that you're trying to solve, and wow, how did this other organization that's in a totally different field from us, but maybe has a similar problem? That is such a unique thing to do. We all work in our companies, and we have, of course, everyone's got great teams, but sometimes an outsider's perspective, when there's sort of like, nothing on the line per se, can just be really, really eye-opening. That's one of the things I've enjoyed most about I.C.E, making those connections outside of my company, and learning how others are solving problems. So I just highlight that. Last thing I'll mention is if you're still kind of on the fence, and at this point, I hope you're already in and sold. You're there. Look forward to meeting you there. But we have one extra thing we added this year, which should be available by the time this comes out, which is the I.C.E. conference preview webinars, new for this year. We had so many sessions submitted this year. We're having a hard time squeezing them all into the program, and there was 3 in particular that we really like. They're lightning learning sessions, so that's the 15-minute pieces, and we've combined those 3 into a 1 hour essentially webinar that we're providing to attendees. And anyone who's registered can watch it at no cost. If you're still thinking about it, there's a nominal charge, and that might be just enough to get you excited to come sign up for the event. That'll give you a little taste, I mean, just a little, but a little taste of the type of content, the quality of speaker, and just the I guess, again, general vibe that you might have at I.C.E. So really encourage anyone who's still maybe thinking about it to at least check that out. Of course, the I.C.E. website has phenomenal information about the exchange. And yeah, just, I guess, really hope to see everybody there.
Well, thank you both for wrapping the key elements up so well. I think you both hit on so many things that have been impactful for me too over the years as I've been going to the event. Roughly about 15 years now. So thank you very much. Some great highlights that you've both mentioned. And I will just say, for those who are interested in learning more, you can either go to the I.C.E. website at credentialingexcellence.org, or the conference website, which is ICE-exchange.org. If you want to get more information, take a look at the program, figure out more about the venue, all of that good stuff. So with that, once again, many thanks, Joel and Denise, for your time and the ability for you guys to sit down and chat with me and our audience. Really appreciated. For those who were watching, thank you very much for taking the time to learn more about this important event. I hope to see you out in person in Phoenix. And of course, as always, our next podcast will be live in 2 weeks. So I will look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, thanks once again, and be well.